Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer. Okay, so today we are going to be talking all about 2025 for all of you Pisces out there. Yes, we're going to be exploring the year ahead. Now, before we do dive in, if you benefit from your horoscope today for 2025, then please be sure to give the video a like and subscribe for more content. And if you would like to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. There you can also find the astrology products I offer. Okay, first thing I want to mention then is that if Pisces is on the rising, you're going to relate more so to the information today. Perhaps you will relate the most. But I also recommend if the sun or moon are in Pisces in your chart, especially if the sun is in Pisces and you have a day chart, or if the moon is in Pisces and you've got a night chart. So make sure just to look into those things, see how things resonate with you. And do keep in mind as well that when exploring the sun, moon, and rising, they all serve different purposes. So, especially with the sun is about our soul's purpose. It's more of that conscious part of ourselves. And then when we look to the moon is about our emotions and our inner world. That is more so our unconscious. Still, first and foremost, I recommend watching for your rising sign. So, Pisces risings, you're going to relate perhaps the most. On that note, Pisces, I just want to say Happy New Year. Happy New Year. We're coming into 2025. Kind of crazy to think about, isn't it? Now, with that being said, it's not the astrological New Year. That will happen at the beginning of Aries season. Still, Happy New Year. I hope that it is fruitful, rewarding for you. When we come into 2025, the sun will illuminate your area of life related to friendships, communities, teams, groups. So, what we're going to see for you perhaps is you really drawing from responsibility and quality, great substance when it comes to networks and communities and teams. Also, we think about here the hard work that you've been putting in, the effort that you've been putting in. There's a building quality to Capricorn. But then you see, by the time we reach the astrological new year, which is Aries season, right? Aries season welcomes the astrological new year. The sun will illuminate things like your finances, your resources, ownership, possession, and you're going to see a lot of significant changes and shifts when it comes to these very areas as we get into the forecast, your horoscope for 2025 today. Even just to further add to this a little bit, Chiron is in the second. So at the same time, we have been noticing all of the growth. My goodness, the growth and the healing that has occurred for you, the integration that has occurred for you when it comes to things like self-worth wounds or insecurities, any self-doubt or fears you've had or rejections maybe you faced related to ownership or property or your finances. Well, you have certainly been courageous. You have certainly been brave. So give yourself credit, Pisces. Moving on then to January. What is up ahead as we come into 2025 for you, Pisces? Well, January, we see Mars retrograde in Leo. So Mars retrograde is from the 6th of December until the 23rd of February. Specifically then, Mars is retrograde in Leo from the 6th of December until the 6th of January. So we enter 2025 with you hopefully taking a step back and really thinking about, okay, how can I conserve my energy? How can I protect my energy when it comes to my daily routines and habits? Honestly, Pisces, I quite like this for you because this is your opportunity to clear space, to set new intentions, if you will, or to revisit older intentions perhaps, but you can draw from that information. It's a good way for you to really be patient, to slow down and to consider, okay, energetically speaking, what's happening for me on a daily basis? You can use this time to maybe revisit older habits or routines or schedules. It's also a good way for you to manage your stress levels and to reconsider productivity. Think also about your health then too, with Mars retrograde in the 6th. And in Leo, a lot of this is about being somewhat determined and coming from the heart, coming from the heart, but showing strength, showing this strength. And so in this way, it's your ability to reevaluate your goals, your willpower, your energy levels, your drive when it comes to things like habits, routines, schedules, productivity, so on and so forth. And also think about how you show up within your occupation, the workforce. Maybe some of these areas are going to be addressed and revisited. But then we also want to consider even how, yes, Mars rules the 2nd and the 9th. And so, in this regard, Mars retrograde in the 6th could be a good way for you to go over maybe certain accounts or budgets or spending habits, maybe to get into a bit of a routine there or to revisit older routines, older habits. Maybe you've changed, maybe you've grown when it comes to these areas, honestly, Pisces, but still reevaluate things, explore your goals, reevaluate them, as I say. And then also we can look at this as you re-examining your very beliefs and your worldviews and the kinds of messages that you wish to broadcast and publish to the world as well. And that can be within itself quite a transformative thing because Scorpio's in the 9th. Okay, then we move on and we think about how from the 6th of January until the 23rd of February, Mars retrograde will come into the 5th house. So this sector of your life to do with, well, things like creativity, art, hobbies, enjoyment, leisure activities, time off, honestly, Pisces, maybe Mars retrograde, especially in the 5th, can indicate some time off, right? So time maybe to spend with family, with loved ones, creating memories. Perhaps for many of you, it is about being able to step back and go, hold on a second, how much am I giving of myself? How might I be overdoing it here? And to even think about it a little bit further, it's interesting to see the connections essentially, because for you Pisces, a lot has been happening with Saturn in your sign. Neptune has been there since 2011. So what we have noticed for you is just a lot of, we could look at it as working on yourself. We could look at it as grinding, if you will, but I think it's more about purpose. It's more about realignment or aligning yourself with the things that you want to build. And there's a lot of evolution. This is you evolving, this is you growing, learning the hard lessons, Pisces. So maybe we could look at it as take the time you need with Mars retrograde in the 5th. Consider your individuality, consider pleasure to some degree, consider your interests, your passions, your hobbies, what pulls you in, what drives you when it comes to these areas, when it comes to these matters. And hopefully at the same time, we can look at this through a lens of emotional security and healthy emotional attachment too. Seeing maybe which kinds of pleasures and interests comfort you, what's safe for you, what feels good to you. Yes, reevaluate, take a closer look, Pisces. Okay, here's the other thing. Well, there's just so much going on for you, Pisces. Honestly, it's going to be a pretty significant year for you, because with Neptune and Saturn being in your sign, and now the North Node is coming into your sign, many changes up ahead. Okay, so let's go over this. The North Node is going to enter your sign on the 11th of January for the next 18 months, and then simultaneously the South Node will come into Virgo in the 7th. Right. So the way I want to explain this is we want to think about where you're coming from. So the North Node has been in Aries in your second since July of 2023. And then the South Node has been in Libra. So a lot of major themes, major transitions, endings, new beginnings to do with, well, we think about your finances, honestly. I think a part of the title here, and I'm maybe going to reevaluate a little bit what the title will be for this video. We'll know when it's up, obviously, but one of them is a big year for financial dreams. And I think the reason why I put this is because with the North Node in Aries, you've almost been laying the groundwork. You've been laying the foundation, so to speak. You've been maybe considering your goals, considering the next step, how you've been challenged, how you can grow, how you can step up to the challenge, how you can overcome certain challenges with relation to your finances, your skills, your talents, things like that. So indeed, you've been a bit of a trailblazer. I think you've taken risks. You've been quite daring. But I also see this as you drawing from gifts and talents related to could be the occult. It could be, these paranormal subjects, taboo-like subjects, maybe addressing your unconscious, maybe connecting more so with the parts of yourself that are hidden, or maybe doing a lot of inner work, basically, right? There is a great deal of investigation. And with that, I think what you've been addressing are your behaviors and attitudes within relationships. So anything that might be keeping you back from, for example, taking the lead or being able to express what you want, right? So that's just a certain area to evaluate there. But basically, a lot of significant changes. And with the financial shifts and transformations, this has also been about shared accounts, shared resources. So one small example of this could be you and a significant other saving for a house or for a car or just for something that is combined. Another example of this could be you and a business partner wanting to start a project or build within a company. Okay, something like that. So basically, all of this is to say that Pisces, my goodness, you've been doing the work, you've been putting in so much effort. And then what we're going to see is we'll perhaps explore more of this to come, because Saturn and Neptune are going to come into the second and really bring things to fruition, or a whole new, perhaps there could be a whole new set of obstacles and challenges, which you can do this. You've got this, Pisces. Still, with the nodes changing, okay, the North Node comes into your sign and the South Node into Virgo. So what we're going to see is that a new 18-month cycle begins. And a lot of this will be about you, the self. A lot of this will be about what you take on as your own as well. So we think here about how often, Pisces, you tend to absorb other people's emotions. You can be very sensitive people, very sensitive indeed. Hopefully we can look at this as you using your healing tendencies or your healing gifts. Your healing gifts, your ability to be very intuitive, to sense things, to recognize things without explaining exactly why or how, right? Even psychic abilities there. So hopefully we can look at this as you drawing from those gifts and really using them as a way to guide you, or there could be some experiences or opportunities that open up for you when it comes to these matters. But at the same time, I hope that you can be able to recognize the kinds of boundaries you've been setting, healthy boundaries you've been setting with Saturn in your first house. And you can then perhaps pick up on when those boundaries are overlooked or not respected. Hey, we could also look at this through a lens of you refining your gifts, refining your spiritual gifts, your creativity as well, your artistic qualities and talents too. So from making the effort, putting in the work, taking the time, doing the practice, right? Just really practicing. Perhaps then with the North Node coming into your sign, you can guide people based on the work that you've put in. So a lot of growth, I think, major developments happening for you, Pisces. Plus, the first house is about our physical body. Therefore, we could see some interesting changes to do with your physical body. Maybe there's greater adaptability. You get curious about trying new things. There's an openness. And you may also find that you're inspired in different ways. It's almost like there are certain things that just call your name and you listen, right? You listen to those hunches, you listen to your intuition. Indeed, it's interesting to see the North Node coming to your sign, because it's almost like whilst you hopefully can guide others through the ways that you do, you also can be guided by your inner world, by your inner wisdom, by your inner faith. And I also feel the need to mention the North Node could indicate you addressing potential addictive tendencies, which clearly are shown through your body. So some changes could be made, significant changes when it comes to addiction. At the same time, with the South Node being in the 7th in Virgo, remember that with the 7th house, it does carry something unconscious about it. So it's the house of the shadow. Therefore, hopefully you can not give into any unconscious tendencies of being a fixer, helping to your detriment, feeling like you need to save other people, or more specifically, I think, fix other people. It's going to be an interesting conversation between you and others. And what's further interesting about it is with your sign, Pisces, you're very much that sign of service. Virgo is also a sign of service, but you are this universal sign, and you may feel like you're tapped into everything else, right? Very connected and tuned in, just tuned in. So perhaps you can become overwhelmed at times. So maybe a part of the nodes changing is clearing space, or hopefully leaning a bit toward that Virgo energy, or being able to recognize it as an opportunity to say, hey, I have to be clear about what is working for me and what isn't working for me. Sure, yes, it is about essentially moving toward that North Node, but it's also about balance with the nodes. So hopefully with the South Node in Virgo, sure, we can look at it as you letting go of the obsessive worry or fixing or stressing out about other people, things like that. But equally, hopefully we could look at it as you respecting or appreciating your ability to use discernment, to use healthy discernment when it comes to your life path, your identity, and how you show up within relationships. There is more that I could say about the nodes, but we're going to move on. Okay, Uranus then. Uranus turns direct in your 3rd house on the 30th of January, after being retrograde from the 1st of September until the 30th of January. So with Uranus retrograde in your 3rd, Pisces, this has been your opportunity to really go within and to focus on, okay, what has changed? What has changed about my message, about my education, about how I communicate? What has changed about things like marketing or research, for instance, advertising? Maybe it's been a good period for you to become quite clear about what makes you unique and how you might seek to do something differently. And it has been a period of you reconsidering how you connect with siblings, cousins, thinking about the day-to-day chit chat, the sort of the small talk. So small talk, how you engage even with others. And naturally, yes, this could also show up on social media. So we could look at this through a lens of your social media platform. Maybe there have been significant developments and changes, breakthroughs, shakeups, things like that. You have certainly been a bit of an innovator, so to speak. You've been trying new things. So with Uranus turning direct, hopefully you can move forward with greater inspiration or insight. And it could even feel like a bit of an awakening moment, right? There's the whole aha lightning bolt moments that happen with Uranus. Some exciting changes could be up ahead in this regard for you, Pisces. Moving on to February. So we come into February and we also see Jupiter turning direct. And Jupiter, remember, is one of your rulers. It is your traditional ruler. Right. So Jupiter has been retrograde in your fourth house in Gemini from the 9th of October until the 4th of February. So with Jupiter retrograde, maybe one example of this is you revisiting past memories, past experiences with family members specifically. Maybe it has been a good opportunity for you to reconsider, okay, my beliefs, right? Why is it that I believe in the things I do? And how have those beliefs been passed on to me from my family? Maybe through such insights, you can see, oh, I've grown, or this is how my mother or my father's wisdom has been passed on to me. Essentially, we notice how the family has passed on information, and you possibly even exploring your family tree, trying to connect the dots. We could even look at this as you spending a considerably longer amount of time with family. So it's safe to say there have been many interesting developments, a lot of expansion, a lot of growth with Jupiter in the fourth. So Jupiter retrograde has been your opportunity to consider, to be mindful about all of the family stuff and what you've learned so far. Maybe this is even about looking to your philosophical views and your worldviews. So indeed, how these matters have been shaped by family or the past, your upbringing, your conditioning, things like that. And you know what? What I'm also going to say here about Jupiter in the fourth is the amount of learning you've been doing within your home. Think about how Sagittarius rules your 10th and then Jupiter is your ruler. We see here you reevaluating your knowledge and what you wish to share publicly. We see you taking a closer look at your very reputation, what you want to become known for. So becoming known as someone who is pretty knowledgeable, as someone who is adventurous, you're willing to question, you're willing to ask the bigger questions. And then we also see this as you're reevaluating your aims and your goals. So, indeed, Jupiter retrograde has been an opportunity for you to learn and educate yourself within your home, within your private world. And from that, with Jupiter turning direct, hopefully you can move forward then with this greater insight or with more of an understanding, right? Jupiter is about understanding. So There's greater understanding to do with the past, to do with family, maybe even greater understanding to do with your very emotional needs, emotional attachments, emotional habits there. Perhaps with Jupiter retrograde, you've evaluated these matters, you've really been thinking them over. So yes, Jupiter direct could be you moving forward more so aligned with what it is that you need, and possibly too how to communicate your needs. Moving on, we have Mars direct. So Mars turns direct on the 23rd of February in your 5th house. So after this period of, as I was saying earlier, this period of reevaluating your hobbies, your creativity, reevaluating your schedules, your routines, hopefully then you can move forward more so with a focus or with a strategy, a new plan, feeling a bit more aligned, or like you can move forward with greater clarity. There's greater clarity about your energy levels. There's greater clarity about your willpower and your drive, and how, again, these matters are tied to a healthy emotional attachment. So what I want to say about this for you Pisces is, remember, from the 23rd of February until the 2nd of May, that will be the post-shadow period. So just take your time to sit with whatever came up during the retrograde, allow things to sink in, tie up any extra loose ends, just mull things over, Pisces. March then. Let's get into March. It's going to be a pretty active month. Okay, March. So as you can see here, there is a lot happening. Venus, Mercury retrograde, and Venus and Mercury retrograde will start from Aries, but they will end in your sign, Pisces. We also see your other ruler, so your modern day ruler, Neptune, change signs. So not only will Jupiter be on the move, Neptune will also be on the move. And that's also why I have another example title of a mind-blowing year. You will not forget, Pisces. But let's get into this. Let's explore this. All right. Venus retrograde. Venus retrograde will be from the 1st of March until the 12th of April. Venus retrograde will start from Aries, so it will be in Aries from the 1st of March until the 27th of March. Right. So for you, Pisces, this part of Venus retrograde will encourage you to reassess your financial habits. There's so much to do with your finances this year, getting things in order. Maybe Venus is an opportunity for you to consider, okay, well, what kind of money would I like to make, or how do I spend my money? How do I budget? How can I save my money? Which kinds of impulsive decisions do I make when it comes to my money? Maybe there is some level of risk taking here, or being a bit adventurous, or being a bit of a daredevil, so to speak, with Aries. But yet, I think it's about how you can tame yourself a bit, how you can practice some healthy self-control. We're especially going to see this with Saturn playing a role in all of this. So indeed, this is so much about your resources and ownership, and even here, what streams of income do you have, right? So how do you earn your money? Maybe reevaluating some intention setting, goal setting, and at the same time, yes, with Aries, there is some form of bravery and courage present. With Aries, there is some form of risk taking. But hopefully with Venus retrograde, you can just take a step back to reevaluate, to reassess your priorities. Maybe that's another thing about Venus retrograde in the second. A big part of it is about your values, your priorities, even your self-worth can be looked at and reassessed to some degree. Indeed, get clear. I think this is a good way for you to really get clear about what you want and to also think more clearly about relationships. This is the other thing. We've got Libra ruling your 8th, and we've got Taurus ruling your 3rd. So Venus retrograde in the second could be about reviewing the kinds of relationships you have. And those relationships are more about shared accounts, joint financial matters. Those relationships are also perhaps about educating, learning. So we think about even teaching and distributing information. Again, we go back to social media, your social media presence. But we want to then relate all this information back to that of spending and earning, things like that. Plus, reevaluating your skills and your talents. Perhaps this is about you being the first to do something, to try something new, to innovate within a particular project. So that could be a particular skill of yours. So use Venus retrograde as an opportunity to go over, right, what is interesting about this? What can I learn from this? How can I maybe utilize my skills, my gifts as a way to progress, to get ahead, but just take that time to go over, things, to reevaluate. Then from the 27th of March until the 12th of April, Venus retrograde comes into your sign. Therefore, indeed, this really is about you, the self. This is about the kinds of money you want to make. This is about the goals that you set, the things you want to achieve. Yes, in Pisces, we also think about you not attaching heavily either. We think about your generosity, your kindness, how charitable you can be, how caring you can be. But Venus retrograde is still a way to look over, okay, well, how might I be giving to others? And in which ways might it be to my own detriment at times? That could perhaps be a part of it. But we could also see it as you really valuing at the same time parts of you that are giving and generous. Oh, and also we can look at it as you doing something different to your look. Again, body. So a lot of interesting changes being made to the body. And considering as well just physical appearance, beauty, attractiveness, how you even attract resources and people to you, experiences that can be unifying. Socializing as well is a part of Venus. So yeah, creativity, right? Venus rules creativity. So indeed, with Venus coming into your sign, I just think it's going to be pretty remarkable when it comes to you reevaluating your style or your look and things like your creations, your designs, your art. Yeah, significant changes even to do with how you show up within relationships on many different levels. But Venus retrograde is your opportunity to reassess these areas. And then what we have is Mercury retrograde. So Mercury will be retrograde from the 15th of March until the 7th of April. Starting from Aries from the 15th of March until the 29th of March. Right. Like I was saying previously, with Venus retrograde, an example of that could be you going over your financial situation. If you want to earn a certain amount of money, for example, what are your streams of income, right? So Mercury then could act as more of that mental, logical piece. You can reevaluate the information that you have. You can look over the data, the stats, things like that, educate yourself further, and even draw from older ideas. Older ideas could be revisited and re-explored. And maybe because it's in Aries, a lot of this will be quite passionate, and maybe you will also feel a bit extra, there's an extra boldness, there's an extra daring quality present, bravery. Then Mercury retrograde will be in your sign from the 29th of March until the 7th of April. So Mercury retrograde coming into your sign, and when we draw again from Venus, partly here, well, Venus speaks to, okay, those possible physical appearance, physical body changes, or you just re-examining, revisiting your look in some way, shape, or form. Well, Mercury could also act as that mental piece, or gathering new information, more information, revisiting older ideas, or taking your time, just, realizing that miscommunication is going to happen, that mishaps are going to happen. In a similar vein, we see this with Mercury retrograde in Aries too. Yes, so any particular areas that you go over related to things like creativity, relationships, finances, beauty, attraction, Mercury retrograde is still going to indicate some form of mishaps or miscommunication, delays. So perhaps it will be a good opportunity for you to be patient, slow down, to make sure that you're not trying to rush ahead. And with Mercury retrograde, especially in your sign, I think that the Mercury retrograde could invite you to really reevaluate your visions, your dreams. This is more about your spiritual values, your spiritual messaging, and how that is perhaps even communicated to the world. With Mercury retrograde, it's about refining these things, taking a closer look. There's more I could say about the retrogrades, but we're just going to move on. Overview for the year. We all think about the bigger picture and the astrology. Okay, eclipse season. So what we see here is eclipse season. The first one will happen throughout March. We have the lunar eclipse happening in Virgo in the 7th for you, and that's happening on the 14th of March. So this, in a way, is a bit of an opening. So the lunar eclipse in Virgo will be this opening for the eclipses that will continue within the 7th first house axis for you over the next 18 months to 2 years or so, right? Therefore, the lunar eclipse in Virgo can invite some kind of release or letting go, to do with relationships and partnerships, to do with the shadow. We could also see this as you clearing space for healthier patterns, healthier habits within relationships, as one example. Then there will be the solar eclipse in your second house in the sign of Aries on the 29th of March. It's going to be really fascinating to see that eclipse occur whilst there are the retrogrades happening in Aries and Pisces. Oh, it's going to be a very powerful, potent time. Still, the solar eclipse is an ending of sorts, because it will be the final eclipse in the second 8th house axis for you. And those eclipses have been occurring over the past couple of years or so. Indeed, we have seen interesting developments, interesting transitions to do with your resources and shared accounts, especially even intimacy, trust, commitment. These things have been coming up perhaps repeatedly for you. So the solar eclipse in Aries on the 29th of March could just be, okay, Another notable change, new chapters, new beginnings to do with self-worth, to do with your skills and your talents, thinking even along the lines of the healing that has happened there when it comes to these areas, or the interesting insights that have come about because you have really explored your confidence, you've explored your passions and your goals and what you want. Okay, so moving on. And again, with the eclipses, there will be separate videos about the eclipses closer to the time. There's more that I could say. Moving on to Neptune. So Neptune, your modern day ruler, is on the move, Pisces. Neptune enters your second house on the 30th of March and will be there for a couple of months. Neptune will be direct from the 30th of March until the 4th of July. So for that period, we could see this as this taster of what is to come. When it comes to things like your spending habits and your self-worth. The reason why it's a taster is because Neptune and Saturn are both going to enter Aries in 2026. But they're still gonna come into Aries for a certain period of time throughout 2025. So what is this gonna invite for you specifically? Well, let's think about how the second house can often show us the kinds of money we make and the ways in which we earn money, and also the ways in which we spend it, our very relationship with it, things like that. It's also about our physical security. It's about ownership. It's about investments. So Neptune coming into the second house could indicate here that you're gonna earn money for your art. You may earn money for your beauty, for how you can make things so beautiful, so poetic, possibly even from you being very compassionate and kind and caring, you being valued for these qualities. Keep in mind that Neptune is your ruler. So Neptune here really does speak to your identity, speaks to the ways in which you show up within the world, how you approach new situations. So indeed, I think it's that you're going to be perhaps seen for your generosity, for your charity, for your kindness, and being brave. And, being a brave warrior, so to speak, this brave, compassionate warrior, if you will. And we could also look at this as the potential risks that you take to some degree when it comes to resources, following your dreams, even thinking about financial dreams, financial fantasies, right? This big year for financial dreams and actually aligning yourself with them. And we're going to touch more on Saturn in a moment, because Saturn is going to act as that solid holding force. And the last point or example I want to draw from when exploring Neptune in the second for you Pisces is trust. To trust in the divine, to align yourself with your spiritual values, because the second house is about what we value. So considering what your spiritual values are, how you make them a priority, how you prioritize them. And as I say, with trust, maybe drawing from your inner guide, being patient in some way. Even though, yes, Aries can be known for being quite an impatient sign, I think Neptune can maybe bring some calmness, greater serenity, especially with you, Pisces, being ruled by Neptune. Okay, now we're going to move on. We're going to move on to April. And April brings Mercury direct and Venus direct. Mercury direct will be from the 7th of April. So after this period of going over older ideas or experiencing mishaps and miscommunication to do with things like your resources, your spending habits, when it comes to things like your direction, your path, well, hopefully there can be some interesting insights that you can move forward with. Spiritual insights, courageous insights, things clicking into place, being able to draw from interesting, fascinating connections there that can help you along your path, help you along your journey. But do remember that the post shadow period of Mercury will be from the 7th of April until the 26th of April. So take that time just to mull things over, to see what else comes through. Then we also see Venus direct on the 12th of April. So in a similar fashion, yes, from the 12th of April until the 16th of May, take that time. It's a bit longer there, but take that time to go over whatever lessons or realizations came up to do with things like your creativity, socializing, relationships, money, resources, beauty, all of those areas. Just take your time to let the lessons sink in, to integrate, and to tie up any extra loose ends. Yeah, we see this as major identity shifts and changes for you, Pisces. Also, partly why, I've been saying it's going to be a pretty mind blowing year. You won't forget a lot of interesting endings, actually. We'll get more to that. We'll get more onto that at the very end. But moving on to May time. What we see throughout May is Pluto turns retrograde. So, as all of this stuff is happening out there, right, we think about the self, even think about here, a lot is happening in your first house of self, and then a lot is also going on when it comes to your self worth. So, indeed, we're seeing major self developments, we're seeing major transitions to do with your goals and going after what you want. But Pluto acts as this unconscious force that's working in the background. And I think Pluto speaks to your personal power and the wisdom that can come from that. And a lot of it, too, I think, is being able to break away from particular unhealthy habits that just do not serve you. We think about how the 12th house is a house of self undoing. And we also think about how the 12th house can point toward addictive tendencies. Now, addictive tendencies is something I already touched on, but I think Pluto really acts as this force to be reckoned with, this force of enough is enough. I'm not going to give in to that behavior. I'm not going to go down that road again. I am going to consider, okay, my uniqueness, what I can control, my independence. So, Pluto entered your 12th house on the 19th of November. So from the 19th of November up until the 4th of May, we will have seen then just first big this first big stage of your inner development and the unconscious drives and habits and motivations that you will address. Some things naturally are going to be hard to face. We have to admit that when it comes to Pluto. But my goodness, the rewards are great. So, Pluto turning retrograde from the 4th of May until the 13th of October, that will be your opportunity, Pisces, to, well, think about any certain cycles that you want to close off or any beliefs that just they do not align with your path. This is about you addressing what is hidden, addressing your unconscious, looking to things like self-undoing, how you might get in your own way, how you might sabotage. So it's going to be certainly a journey into the unknown. It's going into the underworld with Pluto, addressing your vulnerabilities, addressing your shadow. My goodness, so much transformation can happen from this self-discovery. Then we move on to Saturn, and Saturn comes into your second house in Aries on the 24th of May. So from the 24th of May until the 13th of July, Saturn enters your second. And as I was saying previously with Neptune, Neptune can indicate all of this stuff to do with financial dreams. Neptune can indicate you earning money from your art. And Neptune can even point toward all of this inspiration, this fascination, all the fantasies to do with your spending and the kinds of money you want to make or resources you want to have. When we even just put resources and money to the side, this stuff could also be about skills and talents and gifts and just all of the many desires you have there. So if it is, for instance, that you dream of becoming a singer or an actor or a photographer, a filmmaker, a director, so on and so forth, well, Neptune, I think, shows up as that fascinating, dreamy force, that idealistic force. And so you could very well daydream a lot about this stuff. But Saturn then, right? So Saturn comes in. And as I was saying previously, Saturn can act as a holding force, as a structure. As Saturn can hold things in place. There's a heaviness to Saturn, there's a density. Saturn is more confined. And Saturn is also about discipline and security, wealth, responsibility. Therefore, hopefully, you can also draw from these kinds of qualities on your quest, so to speak, with Aries, on your quest to maybe making it as one example, making it as a singer. That's just one example. So, indeed, Pisces, Saturn can be that supportive force for you where you're gonna put in the hours, you're gonna put in the work. And might it be difficult? Might it be challenging? Yes, yes, especially when we think about with you, Pisces. What is time? What is time? I think, especially for you, when it comes to um, creating routines, sticking to routines, being disciplined, things like that, it can be quite the challenge. But I'm also going to say this: Saturn in your sign since March of 2023. My word, how amazing it's been for you. I think you've been showing up. I think that you are at a point in your life where you're prioritizing yourself a lot more, and you are being able to manage yourself, so to speak, more effectively, or to discipline yourself more so. Yes, creating those healthy barriers, committing to certain plans, seeing that by doing that, there can be great rewards. But you see, Saturn coming into your second, it's just another challenge. Remember that. It's just another challenge, which I think you can certainly step up to that challenge, Pisces. Now, before we move on to the month of June, I want to mention that there will be the Neptune-Saturn conjunction, and that conjunction will happen in 2026. It will happen on the 19th of February, 2026, and that will kickstart a new 35-year cycle within your second house, Pisces. So I just wanted to let you know that, right? So think about how Neptune and Saturn coming into Aries. Again, this is a taster. But when we come into 2026, there will be that powerful conjunction between those two planets. And so a new cycle begins. This new cycle very much to do with your resources, your belongings, your skills, your talents, your self-worth. Let's explore June. And the major transit shift we have throughout June is, well, your traditional ruler, Pisces, Jupiter, your traditional ruler entering Cancer. So coming into your 5th house, and Jupiter will enter Cancer on the 9th of June and will be there for the next year or so. All right. Think of it as Mars retrograde at the beginning of the year really helped you get a sense for, get a feel for, okay, my energy levels, my willpower, my goals, when it comes to your hobbies, your creativity. Then Jupiter comes in and acts as this force of knowledge, but also a force of magnetism, attraction, abundance, prosperity, opportunity, growth, expansion, possibly even luck, hope, faith. My goodness, you could feel so inspired, so optimistic. And this could also be a case of feeling hopeful about romance and love and dating, right? We think about those romantic relationships that fall under the 5th house. I just think that this could be a very inspiring time for many of you Pisces out there, and full of considerable amounts of joy and happiness. And I think there's a sweetness, there's a gentleness to this influence, and maybe even feeling this appreciation, experiencing this appreciation for things like art and creativity and pleasure and your interests. We could even see this as some of you Pisces getting married, getting engaged with Jupiter in the 5th. That's just a possibility. It's a possibility. We could also see this as you traveling with your lovers, with your romantic partners. Maybe we could even see this as you relocating, right? Literally moving house. Or we could also look at this through a lens of feeling greater satisfaction and joy and appreciation when it comes to your career and all of the inspirational stuff that could very well unfold there. Because, hey, Sagittarius rules the 10th. And with also the Jupiter influence, so with Jupiter being your chart ruler, we could see significant shifts to do with your very identity. Okay, maybe adding to your identity, perhaps via having a child, right? So that is another possibility. Adding to your family, major transitions to do with your family life, Pisces. There's more that I could touch on, but we're going to move on to July. And July, we see Neptune retrograde begins. Neptune begins its retrograde motion from the 4th of July up until the 10th of December. So there will be that window of Neptune retrograde in your second. Therefore, it's just really an opportunity, Pisces, for you to go within and to evaluate your dreams, to evaluate your beliefs associated with the likes of your finances and your spending habits, all those things that I've been talking about throughout this video, and to maybe as well consider your intuition, where you feel you're being guided, where you feel you're being called. Really listen in, tune in, Pisces. There could be a lot that comes through for you energetically, spiritually. Then we see another significant transit shift, and that is Uranus entering Gemini. Uranus enters Gemini on the 7th of July. Keep in mind that this is a taster. Uranus will begin its full transit in Gemini from 2026 onwards. But there is still this short window of Uranus coming into your 4th house. Right. Let's think of this as Jupiter being in your 4th house for about a year or so. So from 2024 until 2025, about that. And Jupiter coming into the 4th has been your opportunity, Pisces, to consider, right, my family line, my heritage, my upbringing, memories, the past. Also considering the bigger picture when it comes to your family life. Maybe certain family members have been added, right? Your family has expanded in some way. And yes, this could be via literally having a child or just more cousins or more nieces or nephews being added, just as another example. Expansion, growth. Also expansion and growth when it comes to your home, right? Your living situation. But you see, Uranus is going to come in and act as a major unexpected force. Shakeups, many shakeups, things that are not within your control, perhaps, and things just happening unexpectedly in unpredictable, out of the blue ways. And so we could see interesting changes and breakthroughs, plenty of innovation perhaps within your family. And this could feel quite chaotic, honestly, quite chaotic energy, inconsistent, things just happening out of the norm. Maybe even this is you breaking free from a particular family scenario, a family event. But it's also an opportunity for you to experience such huge awakening moments, enlightening moments about your emotions, about what you need to feel supported. So those are just some examples, but there is a lot to Uranus naturally, which I'm sure we will talk about more in the future. But to move on to Saturn. So Saturn will also turn retrograde. Saturn turns retrograde from the 13th of July until the 27th of November. So there will be that window of Saturn retrograde in Aries in the 2nd house. So what we're going to see then is after this short window, this short period of, oh, I can see how I'm going to be challenged when it comes to my finances over the next coming years. Saturn retrograde is just an opportunity for you to take that time to consider, right, the foundation, realistic goal setting. How can I plan things here more steadily, gradually? How might I really grow up? Actually, how might I take responsibility? How might I mature when it comes to my finances, when it comes to my skills and my talents? How am I going to step up to the plate? How am I going to dedicate myself? What's the kind of work that will be required of me? Just take some time to go over certain commitments, barriers, blockages, limitations, get clear about things. Then we also have the next Mercury retrograde of 2025. It will happen in the sign of Leo from the 18th of July until the 11th of August. So Mercury retrograde in your 6th house will invite you to think over your routines and your daily habits, and to perhaps revisit older ideas too. Think of it in terms of Mars retrograde occurring in your 6th house at the beginning of the year. And that was a good way for you to see, okay, energetically speaking, how is it that I'm using my energy? And also, what about my drive, my motivation, my willpower? What are these things communicating to me about the things I enjoy about my daily routines and habits? What is it that lights me up? How do I even make fun and play as a part of my daily routine with Leo there in the 6th? But you see, Mercury, it will be more of that. Again, similar to what I've been saying, Mercury is more about that mental piece. It's more about thinking things over, connecting the dots as well. Even as well, we can look at it as documents, important confirmations and appointments being made. We can look at this as contracts, agreements, just a lot to do with information, data, research. So Mercury retrograde could be your opportunity to go over more of the information and how to educate yourself further, and to maybe even revisit older contracts and agreements. For example, hey, this could be certain appointments to do with your health. Your health is it's so much a priority here with this Mercury retrograde. Yes, health related matters could come to the forefront. Moving on to August. And August, what we see is Mercury turns direct. So Mercury will turn direct on the 11th of August. So basically, just take your time, Pisces, to mull things over after the retrograde, to consider, okay, well, what came up for me? So for instance, if it is some important document or a confirmation, a letter, an email, if it is an appointment there, maybe such things are tied to your health or work, employment, things like that. So if it is that you address such cases with Mercury turning direct, perhaps there will be some interesting developments. You can move forward. But we could also look at this as taking your time to mull things over and to tie up any extra loose ends to get clear. So with the post-shadow period, it will be from the 11th of August until the 25th of August. So use that time wisely, if you will, to integrate and to see what else comes through. Moving on to September. September time, what's up ahead? Well, interestingly, Saturn retrograde re-enters your sign, Pisces, on the 1st of September. So from the 1st of September until the 27th of November, what a great opportunity, Pisces, for you to go over all the things that you've learned, right? I think what a journey it has been, because Saturn entered your sign March of 2023, and you have been challenged to show discipline and dedication, to overcome significant identity obstacles and setbacks have happened. You've been putting in a lot of work, making the effort. And a lot of this stuff too has to do with your long-term goals. Thinking about the long haul, drawing from your inner authority and showing commitment. Choosing, you know what, I may find the short term to be really challenging, but I am going to commit myself to be successful here on my quest. So take the time during Saturn retrograde in your sign to reflect, to consider how you have matured, thinking about responsibility, just all of the growth that has happened. And there could be some other things that come up. Indeed, a lot of this is about your life path and your aims, Pisces. So Uranus also turns retrograde from the 6th of September until 2026. So Uranus retrograde begins in Gemini. So for that short window with Uranus retrograde in your 4th house, we think about, okay, time to consider how things have been shaken up already. And anything that you want to break free from, anything that you want to liberate yourself from, rebel against, even when it comes to older family habits or patterns, could be significant mental shifts and changes that happen, emotional shifts and changes, family related shifts and changes, a lot of this is about breaking free and experiencing major breakthroughs. Very much happening on a very internal level for you, Pisces. Moving on to the second eclipse season, which will happen throughout September. So the lunar eclipse will actually happen in your sign on the 7th of September. So that could invite some sort of release, a reset, a letting go to do with your identity, your physical body, your physical appearance, drawing from those spiritual values and practices of yours, for instance, and the changeability, right? This flexibility, your ability to adapt. There's a fluidity to you, Pisces. So indeed, we could see significant attitude changes, behavioral changes there. Then we see the solar eclipse in your 7th in Virgo happening on the 21st of September. So the solar eclipse will be intention setting, new chapters, notable changes to do with partnerships, agreements, contracts. Maybe a lot of this stuff will be about work, employment. Maybe a big part of it too will be about just business. We could look at it through a lens of entrepreneurship, perhaps, there with the 7th house activated, or some significant legal matters that are addressed, cleaned up. Just improvement. We could see this as healthy improvement happening, and it's all very fresh, very new. And things will continue to grow and manifest over the coming months. Let's then consider October. What is up ahead? October 2025. Well, Pluto turns direct. Pluto will turn direct on the 13th of October. So after Pluto being retrograde, where you've went into the underworld, so to speak, you've addressed those hidden facets, you've looked at and addressed your unconscious drives, motivations. Maybe there's something that you close up, you finish up, there's an ending of some kind, right? The 12th house is even a house of endings. So after this period of this honest self-reflection and getting real with yourself, you can hopefully move forward with those insights, perhaps experiencing some kind of transformation or a renewal. Neptune. So Neptune will re-enter your sign on the 22nd of October. Neptune has spent a pretty long time in your sign. So since 2011, Neptune has been in your sign. So we have seen the notable shifts to do with your identity, to do with your life path, and possible, sure, illusions, deceptions, addictive tendencies, lack of boundaries, but also, my goodness, the amount of spiritual exploration that has happened, your intuition being heightened, your sensitivities being heightened. Yes, so much inner wisdom and inner guidance has come through, even especially if it is that you believe in a higher power, you then connecting with that higher power, connecting with the divine, Pisces. So Neptune retrograde coming back into your sign for its final retrograde in your sign for the next 150 years or something like that, I think is quite a notable thing. I think it's important then to really ponder over, okay, well, my goodness, what has come up for me about self-forgiveness, compassion, being kind to myself, thinking even about how you respect your body, caring for yourself, supporting yourself, right? So yes, take that time to perhaps just consider what you have learned. Reflect upon what you've learned. Could be a really good time for journaling or just some healthy escapism, healthy solitude, healthy retreating, things like that. So much growth, Pisces. So November. We come to November and Uranus retrograde enters your third on the 7th of November. So in a similar fashion we're also coming to these endings. It's such an interesting year, 2025, so many endings. And the reason why I'm saying this is because Uranus has been in your third house since about 2018. And Uranus then Uranus in a retrograde motion coming into Taurus for this final retrograde before re-entering Gemini in 2026. Yes, it will feel like a bit of a final, right? A finalization and ending, especially because Uranus will not be back in Taurus for another, 80 years or so. Therefore, make it count. Make this retrograde count by just re-evaluating the considerable amounts of changes that have happened, the unexpected that has happened when it comes to things like your local communities, when it comes to social media, when it comes to how you communicate, how you share, how you engage, things like that. So much has happened, and there has been plenty of innovation as well. Many breakthroughs, many shakeups have happened there, things that have not been within your control. Even just think of this as your stability, your very stability being shaken up and stirred. So, yes, Uranus retrograde could be an opportunity to explore, okay, I have liberated myself in this way. I have rebelled in this way. I have changed in this way. So, changing mentally, changing as a communicator, even just thinking about with Taurus, there's that practical application to how you communicate. So, Uranus maybe has acted as this creative, eccentric, exciting force. And so, in this way, just take the time to see what else have I missed? Anything else I didn't quite notice or catch before? And then with that, there could be even more enlightening moments, which you can then carry forward with you along your journey. So we also see the final Mercury retrograde of 2025. It will be from the 9th of November until the 29th of November. Mercury retrograde will begin from Sagittarius from the 9th of November until the 18th of November. So that period, that will be an opportunity for you to revisit older ideas, perhaps to do with broadcasting or publishing, media, knowledge, higher education, stuff to do with training that you have done previously, some qualifications that you've earned. Maybe you can revisit these areas. You can reflect upon them, look objectively at things, maybe through data analysis. So just thinking about even analytics there, thinking about certain connections that are formed and how you essentially communicate, how you communicate your message globally, just on a more widely, right? Worldwide, how you present it, how you report it. And then what we see is Mercury retrograde comes into Scorpio from the 18th of November until the 29th of November. So it's interesting because the ninth house is the house of publishing and broadcasting. But you see, even with Sagittarius in your 10th, it seems as if a big part of your life's work is tied to what you publish and what you broadcast. But you see, with Scorpio indicates that you tend to look beneath the surface when it comes to these matters. So you're going to do the investigation, you're going to do the research, you're going to sit with things, really be focused in on what is missing, what is overlooked. So you can pick up on what's not said, what's not being delivered. Therefore, Mercury retrograde in Scorpio from the 18th of November until the 29th, hey, great opportunity, Pisces, for you to revisit higher education, for you to revisit things that you've previously investigated and researched. You can basically look things over a lot more deeply and pull so much from what you find, what you discover. Now, Mercury will turn direct on the 29th of November, but just remember, From the 29th of November until the 16th of December, use that time wisely, Pisces, to mull things over. Tie up any extra loose ends, see what else comes through. Then we move on to Jupiter retrograde. So Jupiter retrograde will begin from the 11th of November and then coming into 2026. So basically with Jupiter retrograde, it's just a way for you to see up until that point, well, how have you grown? How have you grown? How have you expanded? Which opportunities have presented themselves when it comes to things like art, creativity, love, romance, pleasure, interests, passions? Just take that time to go over the very meaning of these things, what your beliefs are associated with these things, considering your deeply held beliefs more so, and also questioning things to do with the bigger picture, right? It's about bigger picture ideas. And we could also see this as you furthering, deepening your very understanding about creativity or about the things that interest you, that excite you in this way. Could also be about your individuality and your self-expression. So these matters could be looked at, revisited, hopefully through a lens of optimism, hope, things like that. Okay, right. So as I was saying previously, 2025 is, I think it's going to feel like a pretty mind-blowing year that you won't forget, because it is comprised of interesting new developments and your ability to evolve and grow, but it's also about endings. And with those endings comes that growth, right? Comes your ability to learn, to reflect, to consider how you have matured greatly. And I think Saturn is a big part of this. So Saturn turns direct on the 27th of November. And so it's coming to that very end part with Saturn turning direct from the 27th of November and then will re-enter Aries coming into 2026. And that will be February time. So maybe with Saturn turning direct, it can be like a victory, or it can be a time of recognition, success, reward, seeing how you have committed yourself, the work that you've put in, and to give yourself a big round of applause, essentially, Pisces. You've been doing the work, you've been making the effort. So, yeah, self recognition. But, we could also see this as literally physical recognition from others. Think of it as Capricorn rules your 11th, right? So Saturn rules the 11th, and Saturn also rules the 12th. So we could see this as some kind of recognition within your communities, for example. We could see this even as inner recognition, recognition that isn't seen. We could see this as those transformations with Pluto in the 12th, those transformations that are happening behind the scenes, out of the public eye. But more visibly, I think a lot of this is going to be recognition that you receive via your communities, your support systems, your teams, organizations you're a part of. Yeah. And so Saturn turning direct could just be an opportunity for you to move forward with more of those insights. It's like feeling what you're being recognized for at the same time, and continuing to align yourself with your purpose, with your wider vision. Indeed, Pisces, this is about you growing spiritually, emotionally. Well, the emotional maturity that has happened for you, I'm sure, has been remarkable. And even just knowing what your limitations are, knowing how much you can handle, if you will, right? Being able to set those healthy boundaries when it comes to your identity, when it comes to what you physically take on. And so this leads us onto December. And December, we notice Neptune turns direct on the 10th of December. So another nod to an ending, if you will, right? Because after Neptune being in your sign since 2011, it's gonna turn direct for one final time, and then come February time, well, beginning of the year, beginning of 2025, Neptune re-enters Aries, where it will begin its full transit. So I think this is, again, sort of like an acknowledgement, a recognition, to acknowledge the very power of compassion, the power of self-forgiveness, the power of, yes, okay, putting in the work and being dedicated with Saturn, being disciplined with Saturn, but equally knowing when to let go, knowing when to surrender, when to rest, to recharge, but to also trust in your intuition, to trust in it. Of course, naturally, the thing about this is perhaps there has been some challenges to do with this stuff over the past couple of years, where maybe you have doubted yourself. You know, maybe you've been doubting, for example, I don't know, am I on the right path? Is this for me? Is this going to last? Is this going to work out? And all the fears and the phobias, things like that. But wow, you've been doing it. And so perhaps Neptune can further indicate this idealism, but this idealism, this fascination, this desire, all those dreamlike qualities, right? All the fantasy stuff to do with Neptune, but in a healthy way, right? It's sort of like healthy delusion, healthy imagination, drawing from your imagination, and your ability to still continue on with the dream. And sure, okay, maybe things don't work out. It's also that sort of thing of, it may not happen, it may not, but it might. It might. So indeed, diving further into your dreams and the mysteries of life, the the unknown. You know all too well, Pisces, about the unknown, and that there is some sort of guiding force out there that is working for you rather than against you. It's all of these sort of spiritual principles and attitudes, right? So indeed, Neptune retrograde could just be your opportunity to continue on, Pisces, more informed, more in tune, more aligned. The end of an era, Pisces, the end of an era, but it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be partly sad, I think, many emotions, but it's also going to be beautiful. It's also going to come with its interesting new adventures. Okay, that is you, Pisces, for 2025. Thank you so much for listening. And if you would like to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. If you did enjoy your horoscopes today, you can always buy me a coffee, but of course, there is never any pressure. It's just to let you know what is available. But please, if you did enjoy, give the video a like and subscribe for more. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye.